Over the years, I've collected a number of different products to model railway crossbucks. I'm going to show you three different ones here, what I think are pros and cons for each of them, and ultimately what led me to trying to make my own, and I'll show you how I did that. The first product is Rick's product, or Pike Stuff. This is a styrene product. It comes in, I think it's a package of 4 or 8, I don't recall. And the Crossbucks, it's all styrene. The Crossbucks are thin styrene. It comes with separate decals for the lettering that you have to put on, and the additional pieces for the number of tracks and the word track or tracks that goes across here on the post. Two things with this. It's molded in white, obviously, because traditionally the Crossbucks have been white in the older days. If this is a wooden post, it doesn't necessarily stay white. It eventually starts to look like an old faded wooden post. But the model itself had a couple of things that were troublesome for me. One is the decals were, I guess, quite old. I had this lying in a drawer for a while, and they basically crumbled when I tried to install them. You can see that there's some of the letters have broken off here. Plus the font or the style of lettering didn't quite sit with what I recall for the type of lettering that was used on the Crossbucks. Also, because they had notched the styrene posts here for the extra panels that say the number of tracks, if you don't want to put that on, and I didn't, you're left with this notch here in the styrene. So it really, to me, didn't look like a wooden post, even a wooden post that was painted white. So I wasn't keen on using that one. Here's a close-up of the Rick's products notch that I was referring to before. You can see that if you're not going to use the extra panels, it really wouldn't look realistic. They wouldn't have notched out the wooden post if they weren't going to install the extra panels. Another manufacturer produced a kit like this. Well, it's not really a kit because it's pretty much ready to go. This actually came with 15 Crossbucks, which is a good number. Two problems I had with this one was the posts. Although it's very easy to install, you just clip both sides, drill a small hole, and insert it. The posts are very, very narrow. So this would emulate a metal post. So you'd want to paint this aluminum. So I thought, that wouldn't be too bad for a more modern crossbuck. But if you look closely at the lettering, when this was manufactured and the way they have the letters, basically the lettering stamped onto the styrene, it missed. So all of the letters are offset. They're not centered on the panels. Like this one, the word crossing is correct, but the word railroad, you can see it's offset to the bottom. And frankly, all of them are offset one way or the other. This one has the word railroad correct, but the word crossing is offset. So, if they had come with decals, probably could have, used them for a more modern one, but I don't see myself trying to, remove the lettering and re-decal them. So, although this was a cheap and seemingly useful product at the time that I bought it, upon closer examination, it's not something that I think I can use easily. It could easily be painted white and create, if I had decals, I could re-decal them, but seemed like a lot of trouble. So not really going to use those. Here's a close-up view of the way this lettering has been stamped onto the styrene. You can see that it's just not regular and evenly done. The third kit I bought was most recently I shouldn't say recently, it was a year ago at the last train show I was at. This is the Osborne wood kit. And I thought this was kind of neat because, it was actually using wood, and I wanted to have that wooden post feel to it, and even have this jig to make sure that you had the pieces installed properly to get the angle right. You put the post in there, and the lettering like that with a bit of white glue across, and it would certainly look like wood. But a couple of things caught my attention. When you look at the word crossing, it looks like the letters are bunched together tightly, and you have this wide spacing on either side of the word. I know it sounds like it's nitpicking, but the real crossing panels, the word is spread out, and it just didn't look right to me. Plus, when I took the kit apart and looked at all these posts, I thought to myself, that's kind of like an HO scale, an 8-inch post. And generally speaking, wooden crossbucks are more likely in the 4-inch square range. And so I thought this is a little bit oversized, and I didn't see myself trimming down or thinning these posts one at a time. And in the end, I didn't like the look of the word crossing on the panel. So unfortunately, I was kind of keen on this one for a number of reasons, but I don't think it's going to work out either. And here's a close-up comparison of the 3 different sizes of posts that each of the manufacturers used. Here's a close-up of all 3 products together. You can see the real variability in the style of lettering, and more importantly, the size of the panels that are used for the lettering. The Osborne products, the wooden product, really shows how it's oversized here when you see it next to the Rix product and the no-name brand on the lower left. I think the correct sizing for these panels is somewhere between the Rix products and the no-name version on the lower left. The internet is a wonderful tool. It was easy enough to find a standard drawing for Crossbucks and the post. Here you see all the dimensions that you might need, the basics in terms of the height, the width of the word panels and the length of the word panels. All these things are useful in developing a model of your own to scale. In HO scale, the dimensions for the panels works out to about 2.6 millimeters wide by 1.4 centimeters or 14 millimeters long, and the height of the crossbucks to the center of the crossbucks from the ground, the 9 feet, works out to almost exactly 1¼ inches. So that's handy to know how to install them when you're ready to do so on the layout. As I mentioned earlier, I've chosen not to install the additional panels that show the number of tracks. I'm also not installing the reflective strip that goes down the front of the post. I don't recall 25-30 years ago seeing those strips, and so my layout being late 80s, I'm going to leave that off the posts. I've zoomed in here on the left side of the diagram where you see the text. The trick here is to copy the lettering by creating a picture, if you will, and if you're handy with using Word and manipulating text, so you can rotate it the 45 degrees and snipping out the words, you can essentially copy the text so you get the exact same font that's used here on the standard, and then paste it into a Word document and size it so that the actual output of the printed document is the correct size based on scaling down the prototype dimensions. Here we see the printed result of the Word file. I've chosen to use thicker cardstock, the matte photo paper, so that it's stiffer and doesn't get easily bent like simple paper would have. And it also emulates a thicker metal panel that's used by the prototype. I applied Tester's aluminum mist paint to the back side of the cardstock very lightly with a Q-tip, so as not to soak the sheet and have it absorb too much paint, to emulate the bare aluminum backside of the panels. Using a brand new, very sharp blade, the actual bits of words were cut out with a metal ruler to make sure the lines are straight and sharp and to the exact dimensions that we needed. Remember, it was 2.6 millimeters by 14 millimeters for each panel. A tiny drop of white glue is used to connect the two pieces of the sign together. The word crossing is glued on top of the word railroad, as it is in the prototype. Here you see an extreme magnification of the backside of the sign, where the aluminum mist really gives it that aluminum look. For the signposts themselves, I used scale 4-inch by 4-inch lumber. You get quite a bit in the package here, enough to make several dozen signs. I made up my own concoction of a mixture of grays and umbers and light gray acrylics to create a wash of sorts for the lumber to give it that washed, worn out look. Here we see the finished results of the staining and all the parts ready to be assembled. And here you see 12 crossbucks ready to be installed on the layout. This crossbuck actually replaced the stop sign we installed in our last video. Here are a couple of leftovers from the previous video. Forgot to include these. These are additional fire hydrants installed to protect customer buildings.